What if everything you think you are is only a shadow? What if the person you see in the mirror is just a mask worn by something vast, ancient, and eternal? Spiritual awakening is not about adding more to who you are. It is about the slow, sacred burning away of illusion. A fire that reveals what was always hidden in plain sight. It begins not with light, but with darkness, a restlessness you cannot name, a quiet ache that calls you inward. You try to explain it with words like purpose, destiny, growth, but none of them truly fit. Something in you is remembering, but you don't yet know what. The world seems both too small and too loud. The routines, the roles, the noise, they no longer hold you. And then, without warning, a crack appears in the structure of reality. Maybe in meditation, maybe in heartbreak, maybe in the silence between breaths. And through that crack, light pours in. Not a light seen with the eyes, but felt in the bones. It is not something external. It is not given. It is unveiled. And in that unveiling, the first threads of awakening begin to weave through your soul. If something within you already feels this stirring, like this video, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments, "I am waking up." Your presence here is not an accident. Let this be a space of remembrance. The process of awakening is not linear. It does not unfold like a ladder to be climbed, but like a spiral that returns you again and again to deeper layers of the same truth. At first, you may think awakening means bliss, that you will float above suffering, that you will escape the pain. But true awakening is not an escape. It is an immersion, a surrender to the very fabric of existence. You begin to notice things. The space between sounds, the silence behind words. You begin to hear the echo of something ancient inside ordinary moments. The wind in the trees carries messages. The gaze of a stranger becomes a mirror. Your dreams shift. Your body becomes sensitive. The world is the same, but you are not. The veil is thinning, and the mystery is no longer distant. This mystery cannot be grasped. It cannot be put into formulas or fixed beliefs. It asks you to walk the pathless path, to let go of maps, to listen deeply. The old identity, the ego self, begins to feel like clothing that no longer fits. It still clings, still whispers, still fights for control. But its voice grows weaker as something deeper begins to rise. The deeper self is not a new personality. It is not an upgrade. It is not interested in success, fame, or achievement. It is still watchful, ancient. It knows it was never born and cannot die. It does not speak in words. It speaks through intuition, through synchronicity, through presence. And when you begin to trust that voice, you realize something profound, that you are not separate from the source. This realization is not always gentle. It shakes foundations. It breaks falsehoods. It exposes attachments. You may feel like you are losing your mind, but in truth, you are losing the prison that mind created. The beliefs you once clung to begin to dissolve. The stories you told about who you are, about what is real, begin to unravel. And though part of you may panic, another part begins to breathe for the first time. The path of awakening often moves through sacred disillusionment. You realize that the things you thought would bring peace, possessions, relationships, validation, are only temporary echoes. They can be beautiful, yes, but they are not the source. And so, you are drawn inward, deeper, quieter, into the temple of the heart, where the sacred flame never goes out. And in that temple, something begins to shift. You stop striving. You stop reaching. You begin to rest in presence. And in that stillness, the world comes alive in a new way. Colors seem more vivid. Time slows down. A single moment feels eternal. You are not looking at life anymore. You are in it, interwoven, intimate, alive. But this is only the beginning. Awakening is not a one-time event. It is a living, breathing process. A death and rebirth, again and again. You will be tested. You will be stretched. You will be humbled. But through it all, the soul keeps opening. The light keeps growing. The false keeps burning away, until only the real remains. As the awakening deepens, the world begins to speak in symbols. Everything becomes a mirror, reflecting back what you are ready to see. A bird crossing your path. A sentence in a book. The silence in a stranger's eyes. It is as if the universe itself conspires to guide you, not with force, but with gentle alignment. Synchronicities multiply. Time becomes fluid, and reality becomes less like a solid wall and more like a flowing dream. You may begin to feel energies more strongly, in places, in people, in your own body. You become attuned to frequencies that once passed unnoticed. The boundary between inner and outer begins to dissolve. Thoughts no longer feel like private whispers. Emotions carry ancient roots. You begin to see how your vibration shapes your reality, how your inner world gives birth to the outer one. This awareness is both liberation and responsibility. You can no longer pretend. You can no longer blame. The world is not happening to you. It is arising through you. This can be overwhelming, but it is also the key. The more you awaken, the more you realize that healing yourself is healing the collective. Every breath you take in presence is a ripple through the whole field of consciousness. And yet, true awakening is not about becoming someone special. It is about becoming no one. Empty. Still. A vessel. When you let go of identity, truth flows through you like wind through trees. You no longer chase enlightenment, because you see that the one who chased was the very illusion keeping you from it. You simply return. again and again, to the breath, to the moment, to the space between thoughts where the infinite sings. In this space, fear begins to dissolve, not because life becomes easier, but because you are no longer at war with it. You do not need to control. You do not need to know. You trust. This trust is not naive. It is deep, ancient, cellular. It comes from remembering who you truly are. Not a name, not a role, not a story, but awareness itself, formless, boundless, divine. You begin to feel love in a new way, not as emotion, but as essence. Love not for this or that, but as the very substance of being. You see it in all things, the broken and the beautiful. You see that even pain carries wisdom. Even loss is a doorway. And in this love, you soften. You become less defensive, less certain, more open, more alive. The awakened state is not always light. It also descends into shadow, not to punish you, but to purify. Everything you have avoided must be faced. Every wound must be brought to light. The ego resists, but the soul welcomes it, for it knows. There is no true awakening without descending into the underworld. There is no light without facing the dark. But the darkness is not empty. It is filled with forgotten fragments of yourself, abandoned truths, silenced voices, lost memories. And when you walk into it with courage, they return to you, not as burdens, but as gifts. This is the alchemy of awakening, transforming fear into insight, shame into compassion, sorrow into wisdom. You do not rise by avoiding the descent. You rise by going all the way through it, and as you integrate, something beautiful happens. You begin to live from the heart, not the emotional heart, but the spiritual heart, the center of pure being. From here, life becomes a meditation, each gesture sacred, each word intentional. You are no longer acting from habit, but from presence. You no longer seek meaning, you are meaning. This is the quiet power of spiritual awakening, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, enduring. It changes how you walk, how you breathe, how you listen. You stop needing to fix others. You simply radiate. And in your presence, others remember their own light. You become a lighthouse, not by effort, but by being. And still, the path continues. There is no final destination, no ultimate arrival, only deeper layers, wider skies, softer truths. The mind may ask, "Am I there yet?" But the soul smiles and says, "You have always been home." If these words have touched something within you, take a moment to support this channel. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and write in the comments, I remember who I am. Your voice adds to the collective awakening. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Welcome home.